Hey guys, thanks for tuning into this interview with Influence Digest. My name is Surma Sadi, and I'll be your host today. If you don't know what Influence Digest is an online magazine and a media company where we find influencers, entrepreneurs, artists, and really anyone who's trying to disrupt the culture, change the culture, or really just bring a change overall. So today we have a very special guest for you today. This individual, at the age of 16, was diagnosed with cancer. He underwent 2 years of chemotherapy. He had a hip replacement done because of all the side effects from the treatment. He had a shoulder surgery done because his joints were on the verge of collapsing, and he made it onto the other side. So we have him here for you today. Today he is an on-air news sports anchor for Sportsnet television. He works with the Toronto Raptors. He works with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Just overall great guy. But most importantly, ever since he's been out of the hospital, he's been working to help people in the community to overcome whatever difficulties that he went through, and I think that's amazing. And it's my pleasure to introduce Faizal Khamisa. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for letting me be here, man. I appreciate that.
Oh, no worries at all. So I guess let's just get started.
Yeah.
First, can you take us back to the day it all happened?
Yeah. I assume you mean when I bought my first pair of shoes. No. I was 16 years old and I was diagnosed with cancer. I remember the day so vividly. It was the night before where I was rushed to emergency. I had no idea what was going on. Had no kind of indication that this is what could have been the diagnosis. Because in the build up to the day that I was diagnosed, I had been feeling a lot of symptoms, shortness of breath and like dizziness and stuff. But I just thought it was because I was doing a lot of stuff. I was playing all these sports. I was working. I was in school. I was volunteering. I was just very busy. A 16-year-old active life, And I woke up at Sick Kids Hospital after being in the hospital overnight. The doctors came in this room. It was meant for kids, right? The hospital's meant for children, right? And I was lucky to fall into the age parameters where they allowed me to be treated there. But there was like trains everywhere and like this wallpaper of like toys and stuff. And doctors came in and just said, Faizal, you have cancer. And it was very blunt. It was very to the point. It was very surreal. It was very overwhelming. It was a lot of different emotions, but it was life-changing as well. It was like the moment that literally changed my life. I remember hearing the words and then seeing my parents cry and immediately thinking that like, this is not what I want to have happen. I don't want them to feel like this, so we're going to try to do something about this right away.
Did it sink in right away, or?
Yeah, it kind of did, right? But like I didn't really know what it meant, right? Any association with the word cancer I associated with dying. And so your first thought is like, am I going to die? And it was a weird thought to have at 16 years old, right? No one's supposed to think like that. No one's like trained to think like that. But as quickly as that thought came in, it exited just as fast because again, that was not the way to beat that thing. The thought process of questioning why it happened was not going to help me. So I immediately removed that thought and said, all right, we're going to try to find a way to be as positive as possible with this.
So you started treatment right away, is that correct?
Yeah, so I got diagnosed and I didn't leave the hospital for I think 3 weeks because they had to start chemo right away. And it was like a start of a 2-year chemotherapy treatment that had surgeries and side effects along the way. But we're here now and it all worked out. It all did what it was supposed to do despite the side effects and bumps and bruises. But I started right away and it was, again, like a very difficult thing to get used to because, again, you lose your hair, you're losing your energy, you're, fluctuating with your weight and stuff. And again, not anything a teenager
is prepared for.
Exactly, is experienced to go through.
Yeah. No, I wish I could say I understand, but honestly, I don't. But man, I could just imagine. You always think it's the guy next door. You always think it's when you hear about cancer or freak accidents or certain things like that. You never think it's yourself, and then like to actually have that happen. But oh man, that's crazy. If your 15-year-old self came to you right now before you had cancer and you had a chance to look him in the eye before the whole situation happened, what kind of advice would you give to him?
Don't get that haircut, man. That was bad. Like the mushroom cut was not a good look. No. I don't know. 15-year-old me was so carefree, right? Like I thought like the world was my oyster. I literally thought like the best is yet to come. And so I think it would be interesting to go back and remind that 15-year-old self that life could change like that. And 16-year-old me learned that pretty quickly. And I think being prepared for it, I don't know how it would have changed any of the thoughts that I went through that day, but I think just having 15-year-old me know about perspective would have been important because there are people that go their whole lives without getting a sense of perspective, getting a sense of how to compare obstacles versus obstacles in life. And I had that reality at 16 years old. So I think the younger you're aware of that, the younger you know how to put things in that perspective, the more better off you are to deal with challenges along the way.
Absolutely. Do you fear uncertainty anymore?
No, because I think I've gone through the worst. I feel like the most uncertain thing that could ever happen to me, and that there was a coin flip between living and dying, happened, and here I am doing what I love to do, and trying to make change as a result of it. So there's no point in really thinking about the uncertain or the unknown, because it's not going to help me. I try to live the last decade plus of my life with this positive attitude, with this idea that whatever happens, we're just going to kind of take it and go. So to think the other way, to think about the worst case scenario, it just wouldn't be beneficial to me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's crazy, man. But most people after a traumatic incident like that, they lose the life inside them. Sure. They lose the positivity. I've seen it happen to people. You, on the other hand, you're so exuberant, you're happy. Like, how have you been able to look at life so positively after such a big experience?
Well, I'll admit, it's been a up and down decade plus since the diagnosis. So there have been moments where I start questioning why all this has happened to me. You go through the cancer, and then a year later you go through the double hip surgery, and then 6 years later you go through a hip replacement. It's like, when is it going to stop? So it's easy to fall into that trap. But again, to me, it was just, I needed the positive to latch onto, right? I needed that spirit to kind of infect other people as well, so that the vibe around could be positive. What's the point, right, of being negative and questioning? It isn't going to change what's going to happen. I couldn't change the diagnosis. I didn't do anything to have it happen to me. It just kind of happened. And so because it was so random, because it was so sporadic, it just felt like it didn't make sense. And I took that illness, which was the worst thing in my life, at least what people deemed, and turned it into the best thing in my life, because it directly led me to where I am today. So I don't know if it's me just consciously trying to stay positive, but it's just something that's ingrained in me, and that's kind of all I know.
No, that's amazing. Like, you obviously know by now, you're an icon to you are in the community, to like the Ismaili community, the sports community, the Southeast Asian community.
Thank you.
Like, there's a lot of kids out there who look at you, and I know for a fact a lot of kids look at you, and because let's be real, like, before, there's a cultural shift happening right now, right? There never used to be a lot of brown news anchors, sports anchors. You're part of that change. And like, how does it feel to kind of be able to be in the lead of that, and like be the spearheading that yourself?
Well, I think it's so important for young kids to have role models. Growing up, watching as much sports television I did, we didn't have that. We didn't have South Asian anchors, like you said, to look up to. And I think whether it's this industry or other industries, it's important for kids to have role models that look like them, so they can believe that they can go and do something that seems unattainable. If I look back at 8-year-old me, like, wanting to do what I'm doing right now, I would never have thought it was possible. And that's why I applied to study business and psychology at school instead of doing this until after I finished my undergrad, right? It's why you question whether or not you can make it in an industry that not many of your type have made it. So to be, I wouldn't say the forefront of the change, but to be part of the group that's trying to influence that younger generation, it's so important to me. And influence and being a role model for that younger generation, regardless of what their skin color is, regardless of what their upbringing is important to me in any capacity. It's why I try to do fundraisers for sick kids. It's why I try to live a life that kids and parents could be proud of, and that they would want to tell their kids, oh, this is, not to say you should be like me, but this is a good way in which to live. That's important to me. It's important for me to try to show people that they can go on and do whatever they want, and be positive while those obstacles kind of hit them in the face as well.
Absolutely. So going back to what you just said about sick kids, I heard about your viral sick kids toy run. You raised over $20,000.
Yes. Yeah.
So do you feel like you have an obligation or something inside you that's really pushing you, because you made it out, you got out, you're in a great place now? Do you feel that it's your duty? Like, what is it that you feel?
It is absolutely my duty to try to use whatever influence I have to make change. I think I'm very fortunate to be in the position I am. I get to wake up every day, talk about sports, and that is my job. They pay me to talk about something I love to talk about anyways. So I could easily take that and be arrogant about it and use whatever quote unquote fame comes with being on television every day, and be a different person as a result of that. But to me, it's so important to take whatever power that I have and try to evoke positive change as a result of that, right? So I totally feel a responsibility. Sometimes stressful to have that burden on your shoulders, but as stressful it is, it just shows how important it is to me to want to do them. That's why I try to, again, live as positively as I can and try to live how I talk. It's one thing to say you're going to be positive and be the change, but whatever, but it's other things to go and show action around that. And so I try to show action around that all the time. And for me, it's the most important thing that comes with my job.
No, that's amazing. So In terms of the route you got there, correct me if I'm wrong. After high school, you went to Western, got a degree in psychology, and then you did your postgrad at a college and did in media studies?
Yeah, the College of Sports Media, a 2-year radio and television broadcasting program there. But the actual route that led me here is more directly linked to the cancer than people would think, because the first opportunity I ever got to really speak about anything was in university about my story. My residence advisor at the time asked me to come speak to a bunch of grade 12 students that were coming for getting a tour ahead of their first year. So it was my first year, a bunch of grade 12s were coming. She's like, hey, Faizal, do you want to speak? And I said, do you want me to talk to them about how not to succeed in first year? Because I'm like absolutely on the way to doing that right now, you know? But she asked me to speak about my story, which is not something I ever formally did. But when I did it, the room was, you know, full of tears, and it really moved by my talk. And that's when I understood how important sharing the story is, not for me and not to share my story per se, but to share the message that I kind of learned, to share the idea of perspective to kids that so often don't have one. You know, we look at bad exams and bad tests and bad relationships and lost jobs and no money and fights with our friends as the worst thing in the world when you're a teenager, when you're 15, 16. Yeah. That is the end of it, right? I went through something that literally could have been the end of it in my life, and I was able to find a way to be positive through that. So I think it's important to share that message and remind people of that message. So the first time I ever spoke about it was in first year, and it sparked me to start a motivational speaking company, which took me all across the country, being able to share my story. And the more and more I shared that story, the more and more confident I got speaking. And the more confidence I got speaking led me to think about what I love speaking about the most, and that was sports. So after my undergrad, I decided that I was just going to try this thing I wanted to do when I was 8 years old. Why not try? I share the message of, you know, believing in yourself and pushing yourself to go do whatever you want to these kids, but I wasn't really doing it myself. And so I figured I would try this college out, and ended up obviously working out for me, which I'm obviously very fortunate about. But yeah, I mean, it all started with that diagnosis. It all started with the decision at 16 to say, I'm going to try to make this as positive as I can. And it led me to where I am right now.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I read in a book, I can't remember which one it was, but it was like, the idea was that whenever traumatic experiences happen, it's like those are the defining moments that are going to either propel you further than you've ever gone, or behind, like further back than you've ever gone.
It's Harry Potter, I think. Yeah.
Was it?
No.
Maybe. So one question I have is what was the biggest mistake you made along the way?
I think thinking I could do it all. You know, I decided I was going to go to university despite having a year of chemo left in me, despite having my hips operated on the summer before leaving and starting to walk 2 days before going to first year. That's why I said I could definitely do a clinic on how not to succeed in first year. But I felt so determined to want to live the normal life that a teenager would do that I lost track of actually taking care of my body for a while. And first year was not good. You know, it was not good, and it forced me to reevaluate how I would go about doing things. So if I could go back, I don't know if I would have deferred my acceptance again, because, you know, all my friends were going, and it's a pressure that comes with being 17 and 18 and going to university, you know. But I think I would have handled how I dealt with university a little bit differently. I would have been more responsible. I would have been more cognizant of my body and the changes that I had been going through for the last year and a half. But and just slow down a little bit. I felt like I had to do it all, because when you're at Western and when you're in first year, there's a pressure to be in Western and be in first year like everybody else. And my body was just not ready to do that. And so I wish I slowed down a little bit, because I think I would have, you know, academically would have been off a little better. But you know, where I am right now, I'm very happy that it worked out. So there's no direct regret in any way, but there's a lesson obviously to take going forward, because if things were to happen to me again, I know how I would handle it going differently. And again, that's something I learned now at 18 years old.
No, that's great. Is there anybody you model yourself off of at this point in your career or growing up?
I mean, not industry wise, but my parents were like, my parents are the models for me. I mean, they're both, you know, immigrant in Canada that had to they were forced out of their respective countries in East Africa and had to find their way here through different paths, you know. And despite coming here with nothing, despite living on opposite ends of the country, they found a way to succeed and make a life for my two sisters and I that, you know, they should be very proud of, and that, you know, not many would have had the resilience to kind of do, you know. And they never complained about what they had to go through. They never, you know, questioned why it happened to them, and those values were passed on to me. And that's why I think it was so easy when this happened to me at 16 to look at them and see how upset they were and realize, no, like, they're not even that upset about what happened to them. Like, how can I be upset about this? And we got to make it through here. So my parents definitely are two people I model my life and my values after, for sure.
Oh, that's incredible. Me too. For sure. So a lot of kids looking at you or want to get to the position you're at. Would you recommend taking the same kind of route, undergrad, master's. I know that you also said you started a sports blog.
I did. That helped. I think that led to my job as well. My advice would be to not enter this industry because there's not enough jobs and you're going to take mine one day. No, I think, I don't know, man. It's so fickle right now because it's so hard to get a sense of where this industry is going. We know television is kind of losing its luster and more things are turning digital, but sports is one of the few live television events that people kind of sit around and watch, and so this industry, while it's still vulnerable, is strong enough to sustain some of the hits the other parts of the television industry are going through. So but the advice that I give people is to take advantage of the technology we have, because that's what I did. I started the blog in my final year, which was the final stepping stone to lead me to apply to the College of Sports Media. We have the technology available to us today to put videos out there, to record podcasts, to write blogs, and get a sense of how we are at this, or at least, at the very least, get a sense of how we can improve with this. The more you put stuff out there, the more vulnerable you become. The more vulnerable you become, the more you're wanting to be less vulnerable, and to be less vulnerable, you want to be better. So I put out videos to start, and they were terrible, but from the advice and the comments of other people, I used it as a means to get better. And that was now, over 8-9 years ago. And so the technology is way better today, and so much easier to access. And so there's no excuse. If you want to be in this industry, if you want to be on television, I feel like you should just start a channel and just do something before formally getting the education. Right? It literally is nothing, right? You can get a better camera, which costs you something, sure. But if at the very least you have a webcam on your laptop or you have your phone, you can just do something and start, and then try to get better through that. And then if it's something you like, if it's something you're comfortable with, then decide the formal education path to go to. But there are good college programs out there right now that lead to success in this industry. The school that I went to wasn't around when I was an undergrad. It started a couple years into my undergrad program. Looking back, if I was more confident at 17, 18 when I was applying to university, that might have been a path that I went through. And I know directly. And I know people that did that and are successful right now. There are other people that have gone through the formal university process, then the college process to get that certification, and are also working. There are people who have no formal education in this industry that are working as well. So it's so hard to outline a direct path in which to get there, because there really isn't one.
No, I firmly agree with everything you're saying. I don't know if you follow Gary Vaynerchuk or anything like that, but he always preaches about, like, all you need is a blog, a podcast, like whatever you're interested in. If it's video, start a YouTube channel. If it's audio, do podcast. If you like writing, start a blog, and just kind of keep going. That's really how Influence Digest started.
Seriously.
Just like me in a library for 4 months, just writing stuff. Traction picked up, and like now I'm sitting next to a cool guy like you.
Well, no, but like other cool people for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what about haters, man? Like, when you get bigger, there's no doubt. Like, one quote I've heard that will always resonate with me is, in order to be president of the United States, half the country has to hate you. So in this case might be 75%. Right now, but yeah. So, but like, I assume, like, as you grew, as you said, you made yourself more vulnerable. How did you deal with that? Because I know sometimes criticism is one thing. Yeah. But even myself, I get random people make fake Twitter accounts and tweet some stupid stuff at me all the time.
That stuff happens all the time, man. Yeah. And again, the more you're in this industry, the more you develop a thick skin around it. There are things I'm cool with. Like, you can criticize, like, me as a talent, that's fine. But when I see the racist stuff, when I see, like, the personal stuff, it does still affect me a little bit. But
for sure, we're human.
Exactly, right? And nobody wants to see, like, I get people calling me terrorist all the time and stick to cricket, and I literally know nothing about cricket, right? And I'll break down basketball more than you could, I'm telling you. But, it just comes to the industry. I think one thing I realized, one thing I was told, is that there's so many people in this country that would love to do what I'm doing, and I'm doing what, people would love to be doing. I'm doing what people spend their time hating on people to talk about, right? And so go to hell, it doesn't really matter to me.
For sure.
There are things that just make me laugh at times, but there are other things that just make me feel like, as a country, as a people, as a society, we just have to be better, right? And so it becomes less and less now, which is, very optimistic for me, but definitely early on it was something that bothered me, but
it just comes with the job.
It really does, man, and that's cool. And again, I try to live a life that's, like, conducive to being positive and trying to, not piss off anybody. So the hate, it's just because people are ingrained to just hate. There's nothing about me that you can hate. Again, you can hate my job and the way I do it, but the personal aspect, I feel like you're just reaching and hating for the sake of hating.
For sure. So you did say you can break down basketball better than anyone else. Are the Raptors going to the NBA Finals this year?
Yeah, I think the Raptors are going to the NBA Finals this year. And I'm like pretty confident
take.
in that statement. That's not a hot take. They're the first place team to eat. How's that a hot take? I'm pretty confident in that right now. I think they have the tools this year to get past Cleveland. I think that's the only deterrent right now. And people are scared of Philadelphia. People are scared of Miami and Milwaukee. And I'm just like, I'm really not, you know? I think the team is good. I think they're not reliant on two guys like they used to be in the past anymore. They have this like
no more iso ball.
Super bench that is really, really good, that will play minutes in the playoffs. I know it's not a postseason thing to play a bench often or to play 5 non-starters, but the rate at which that bench is going, it makes it impossible to not play them. And they've saved the team so many times this year, and I imagine there'll be similar tactics in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, for sure. So you think the Game 1 curse is going to be done too?
Yeah, I think Game 1 curses, all those curses are going to be done. I think all those coincidences are just dumb, and people outside the Raptors market like to use that as a reason for not validating the Raptors. But if they lose Game 1, they lose Game 1. They lose Game 1 a lot, and they end up winning the series a decent amount too. So it's really all good, right? So, but I think this is the year they break all those demons down and kind of get there.
Who's your favorite player on the bench mob?
Oof. I love the bench mob so much.
I love the bench mob too.
I think Pascal Siakam's my guy. He's this like grungy guy that you'll look at and you'll be like, what are you doing? Like, who are you? You know? And then he just runs game. He can run the point. He can, shut you down in the post. He can hit threes now. And
young Giannis.
Maybe, man. Maybe not. Though. But he's my guy. He's just like a scrappy guy that's gone through a lot to get to where he is. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate what he brings to the team.
Yeah, for sure. Mine is Fred VanVleet.
Sure.
Man, he is just like, he's a bull. He's like a young Lowry, actually, really when you see him play. Like, he just, like, he has so much. Did you see him, like, lock down CP3?
Of course they did.
Dude, I've never seen, like, that kind of defense, like, so much confidence.
Yeah.
I was like,
the whole bench is confident. The whole team is confident, which is why there's a different aura around them than in years past, in my opinion.
Did you expect them to be as good as they are this season?
So I'll admit, like, when the projections came out, I was, like, laughing at a lot of people who thought the Raptors would finish 6, 7, 8. And I was like, no, they're, like, much, much better than this. But I was naive to think that they were this good, right? I would be stupid to think that they'd be better than Cleveland at this point, or even Boston after the acquisitions they made. But as soon as the season started, I saw how vulnerable Boston was. Like, yes, they won 16 games in a row, but they're creeping out wins over teams like Atlanta and Dallas and Brooklyn. I was like, I don't really buy into them. On TV, I declared in October that the Raptors would finish first in the East, so I'm still holding on to that one. And as soon as they clinch first in the East, like, that video is ready as a draft, ready to post and be like, I told you so.
Ready to go viral?
Well, not viral. People will hate, but I don't care.
Yeah, it's all good.
I don't care.
I guess, like, no, this has been awesome, Faizal.
Thanks, man.
One thing is, like, is there anything you really want to leave us off with? Like, we have, like, a ton of, young viewers. A lot of people who are in undergrad reading this. A lot of people are just graduating, trying to figure this stuff out. I know we just talked about the Raptors, but anything at all that you want to say to them? I
think, like, the biggest thing for me is to tell people to not be afraid to change things up. Life can be simple, life can be safe, but sometimes the most fun in life is being unpredictable and living on the edge a little bit. I took this huge risk in trying this thing that not many people succeed in, but I'm living proof that you can if you push yourself, you believe in yourself, and you work hard. And so no matter the obstacles, no matter the challenges, just push yourself to get to wherever it is you want to go. And I firmly believe that you can get there.
Sweet. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, man.
I really appreciate that, Faizal.
Of course.
Guys, that's it for today. We had Faizal Khamisa here. Unreal interview. More to come. Thanks for tuning in.